Get ready for utter foolishness in this video, as we're about to test some of the dumbest so-called planes available in flight simulation. In the GeoFS aircraft menu, we can see a lot of sensible planes. There's a good mix of general aviation, airliners, as well as military planes, and also everything in between. But if we scroll to the bottom, that's where we find the fun and dumb stuff to mess around with, including a wingsuit, hot air balloon, and a literal car. Stay tuned. The first one we're going to test is the paraglider. We have spawned in here at 5,000 feet over these mountains. As you can see, it is nothing more than a person attached to a parachute. This will be interesting. We're gonna try to land at that area over there. Wish me luck. Let's start a time-lapse so you don't have to watch this whole thing, which is painfully slow. Also, I have noticed that the paraglider intermittently loses altitude and gains a bit of it again. This might have something to do with thermals, but I don't really know. If anyone knows what's causing this, feel free to share in the comments. We're coming quite close to the ground here, and there's actually some houses over here, deep in the forest, which is quite interesting. Imagine being the owner of this house and one day you just see a person on a parachute landing in your front yard. We're doing a few final turns here, to get ourselves in a better position. And, touchdown. Okay, time to move on to the next one. The next plane that we're gonna test is the Major Tom hot air balloon. First things first, this has got to be the easiest thing to fly in the entire sim. Literally the only thing you have to do is to pitch up to ascend, and do nothing to descend. You can't move laterally unless you have wind. Again, let's start a time lapse. At about 5,000 feet here, I extinguish the fire, but we continue rising to a maximum altitude of about 8,500 feet before starting to descend. At about 1,000 feet above the ground, I start the fire again to slow our descent rate, but I would soon learn that this was too little, too late. Still descending with at least minus 2,000 feet per minute, our hot air balloon slammed into the ground. Poor passengers. Next, we have something called a goat air chariot. This actually isn't that dumb, it's just an ultralight aircraft, kind of like a glider. But the name is pretty dumb. Now it's probably actually supposed to be a rendition of the Sandlin goat, which is an actual single-seat ultralight glider made by Mike Sandlin. I'll put a picture up on screen now. But let's see what it delivers anyway. This thing flies at an incredible 20 to 40 knots most of the time, and for that reason our approach was also incredibly slow. But coming in here, we can see that this thing only has a single wheel at the bottom, so keeping balance on the ground will probably be a struggle. I flared a little early here, but we touched down pretty well after that nonetheless. For the most part, you can keep the aircraft wings level using the ailerons. How they can maintain roll authority below 20 knots, I have no idea. But as we're about to come to a stop, the plane inevitably tilts to the right and scrapes its right wing against the ground. Next one. Now for some reason here in my test run it's taking absolutely forever to load in, with only the windows being shown. But at least with the windows you can see roughly where the car is. Here we have a car. Yes. I'm not joking, we have a literal car in a flight simulator. Massive respect to the GeoFS developers for adding this. And the specific model. It's a Citroën 2CV. Interestingly enough, there's no accelerator/brake system for this car, you just control its speed with the throttles as you would with an actual aircraft. You turn left and right with your control. Now unfortunately we don't have any instruments here to view our speed, but this looks pretty darn fast, probably close to 100 knots. And, oops. Now our last dumb thing to test will be a wingsuit. First impressions out of the way, I think this is actually a pretty fun thing to fly. Spawn yourself at 5 or 10,000 feet and you'll have loads of fun flying this thing all the way to the ground, not to mention the insane views from up there. Hopefully you won't get hypoxia though. Now it is a bit hard to control, yes, but just make small inputs and you should be fine. Alternatively, you can lower your control sensitivity. There is actually a landing gear option for this one, so I tried it out of curiosity. It isn't actually a landing gear, it's a parachute, but I guess they have kind of similar purposes. My landing was no short of terrible, and there's no way to control it on the ground. So I hope you enjoyed this video of me messing around with the dumbest things available in the aircraft section of GeoFS. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe on your way out. Have an absolutely fantastic day and I'll see you next time.